Good evening from Swansea wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. Last night on SmackDown, Roman Reigns got taken to tribal court as the court of public opinion put WWE on trial for the amount of TV time given to the Bloodline. And we're going to talk about it all on what will be a stacked episode today. But joining me firstly to talk about all of this, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
I'm doing well. It's stoked to be back. It's Saturday somehow already. I feel like the 4th of July threw off my whole week because that felt like a middle of the week weekend all of a sudden. And then you end up here and it's Saturday once again, but we've got no pay-per-view this week, which is slightly disappointing, but we do have Collision. We got SmackDown to talk about. So a lot of positives. I'm excited.
Absolutely, we do. Saturday night is certainly all right for fighting, as they say over in AEW. But also returning after his holiday, we have Shad. How are you, Shad?
Finally, Shad has come back to Wrestling Republic. What's good, guys? Took the week off, back here, caught up on wrestling, watched SmackDown live last night, and I'm ready to talk about it, man. Ready to talk with y'all. It's been a while.
Absolutely. And it was certainly an interesting episode, an entertaining episode, I'd say. But there was a certain issue which we'll get onto later on. But let's kick things off with the Tribal Court. Of course, this was the segment which, going into the show, we were all very excited about. On the preview show last night, we kind of said we didn't really know, how this was going to go. But we just knew wherever it went, it would be entertaining because pretty much any time Roman Reigns and the Bloodline are in the same ring, it's must-watch television. But I was shocked that this actually kicked off the show. I expected it to main event. The Usos came out and opened the show before Heyman and Solo then interrupted. Heyman said that only one man in WWE can stop him from talking, hinting, at Roman Reigns, before Solo just grabbed the mic off Heyman, and Heyman just looked shocked. It was an amazing look. You could just frame that, in a picture frame, and it would be hilarious. But then Roman did come out, and the Usos showed a video showing all the wrong that Roman Reigns has done to them and why they have put him on trial. And then Reigns turned up, his manipulator mode all the way. And he claimed he was doing it all for them because he wanted to make Jay the next right-hand man. So not the next right-hand man. He wants to make Jay the next tribal chief in WWE. But the Usos weren't buying it. They've had enough of Roman Reigns. And then Reigns basically just said that he didn't want to be the tribal chief anymore. The crowd were just shocked. And then Roman just takes off the Ula Fala. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he just puts it on Jey Uso. And then Roman Reigns kneels down. He kneels to Jey Uso. And everyone's like, well, what's happening? Roman Reigns starts crying. Everyone's like, what? And then a low blow out of nowhere from Roman Reigns. And then an incredible brawl broke out between them all. And Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa were standing tall. And Jimmy Uso was very much injured and was put through a table by Solo Sikoa. But this was an action-packed opening to SmackDown. It told a really, really, really good story. It took a lot of time. We'll touch on that in the last segment later on. But in terms of the segment itself, Clark, what did you think about it?
Gosh, I really don't want to be so negative about this, but I'm about to be. I think when you're as good as the Bloodline are at telling stories, you're bound at some point to have an off night. And I think that's what we unfortunately saw tonight, was an off night. It just too telegraphed on the fillet, right? Falling off and Solo picking it up. Too much physicality. I wanted more of a lot of things and less of a lot of things. I wanted more Paul Heyman. We only got one exhibit, really. Come on, Tribal Court last time, we got multiple exhibits. There was no defense. It wasn't court. Right? Roman just called it off and turned it into a promo segment that turned into a instant replay of a tag team match, but with no bell. We had the Usos fighting back and forth, making a comeback in the middle of it. which turns out to be a beatdown on mostly Jay. I mean, on Jimmy, I'm sorry. Jay escapes being tied up in the ropes and fights back further. It just, I don't know how much this advances anything other than they just teased Solo also ditching Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
I don't know that that is the answer to all of our questions here. I think Solo needs to stick by Roman's side. And long term, I'd actually like to see the Usos return to Roman's side.
Oh, that
Before
would
we
be
finish this story.
That would be excellent. And I mean, you very briefly touched upon it there, Clark. I forgot to. Solo at some point. I mean, we had the Heyman thing where he took the mic, and it was a few times during the segment once the brawl broke out that Solo just glanced at the championship, and I think that's foreshadowing. Could Solo be the person to take the title? It's a debate for another day, but I personally, my defense for this segment, right? I'm putting this segment on trial right now. My defense is that it was 20 odd minutes long. It was a very, very long segment, and yet it didn't feel that long to me. It felt, I was shocked when I saw how long it was afterwards. It did not feel anywhere near that length of time. I was fully entertained throughout it, and I feel like it did advance the story. But Shad, what did you think of this segment?
Clark, you're my guy. I kind of disagree with you in some aspects of it, man. I do feel like the build of it did lead us to thinking that it was going to be something of high magnitude. It's in MSG in New York, so I can kind of understand that. But like you said, man, they took a good portion of the show, and I was glued into it because it's just you're continuing the story of what is happening in the entire deception of Roman Reigns and the Usos. And I think that you had a good opportunity of the main thing of the entire segment with Solo Sokoa, where I feel that you did. I'm sorry, my cat is tripping. You did I think the moment with the lay and Solo picking it up, that was probably one of the best things that happened on the show last night. Like, it got me so intrigued because now in my mind I'm thinking, where is this gonna end? Like, is it gonna end with Jay? Is it gonna end with Solo? It adds a different curveball to the dynamic of the storyline. And I mean, it's just it's incredible. What does Michael call him? The master manipulator. You see it again, man. You see Roman Reigns with the infamous low blow spot with the crocodile tears. Like, I think it added a lot of slow pace storytelling to it where I was still entertained by it. And I feel like it may have not been as hot as other moments that we've seen from these last few weeks, but in theory, I still thought it was a very strong opening segment.
Yeah,
no, I 100% do agree
and
with
I
you
may
there.
have been a bit harsh. I actually agree with a lot of what you said. I think what bothered me though, I did like the segment as a whole. I just think when you're comparing the Bloodline, it's a little bit like comparing Michael Jordan against himself, right? The Bloodline against the Bloodline. You know what I mean? The standard's so high that right, comparatively speaking to other segments, this was still excellent. No doubt. I want to get that out there for sure.
Yeah.
One thing that I would have personally changed is I would have preferred Solo to stare at the lay and not touch it, not pick it up, and make Roman bend down and grab it. I think that would have been more powerful for that moment than him picking it up and then eventually being ready to hand it over. I think looking at it like, I might pick it up, or are you going to? And Roman bends down and grabs it in kind of a rush.
That might
would have been the way
perfect.
I would have preferred to do it.
That is a great call there, Clark. I mean, yeah, there's so many small details within this story, and that would have certainly been another one which could have just crept in there. At the same time, I guess maybe they didn't want to get Roman on his knees for a second time, perhaps, in the same segment, but who knows in long term this stuff. I'm interested in it again. I know we spoke about this briefly yesterday, but there was a little time period a few weeks back well, it was a couple of months ago now, where we just weren't really feeling the Bloodline, and now they pulled us right back in again.
They reheated this back.
Yeah,
It's
they
with
absolutely
the
did.
quickness, man. It's crazy to me. Like I feel from when we had the initial Sami Zayn, and then obviously him beating the Usos with that to this, like this year they've got this storyline back in full gear, and it's really they're cooking with heavy heat on this storyline
Oh,
right now.
this storyline's like a microwave. Things heat up quickly, and it has
Yes.
been all year. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great quote as well there. Storylines like a microwave, things heat up quickly. But now let's go on and move on to another match on the show, a United States Championship match on the show, and that was Austin Theory, Clark's favorite wrestler, Clark's second favorite wrestler, sorry, of course, after Cody Rhodes, taking on Sheamus, defending against Sheamus. And I mean, Peter Ryan wrote an article on WrestlingRepublic.com yesterday about why he believes it's time for Austin Theory to drop the United States Championship. Kobe mentioned it on the broadcast yesterday as well, and truthfully, I do agree. I knew it wasn't going to happen last night, but this match was a little too quick for my liking, and that's a common theme throughout this show. But Sheamus lost fairly quickly. It wasn't clean, pretty deadly, did help Theory get the win, but it wasn't great. And this Theory US title run since he's moved to SmackDown's actually gotten a bit more boring, in my opinion. And I didn't think that was really that possible. But Clark, what did you think about this?
I think this did more to set up for Pretty Deadly and the Brawling Brutes than it did for anything else. I agree with a lot of what has been said about Theory losing the championship. I don't know that that's soon. We have a lot of factions in WWE that I've complained about, and I apologize for doing that too much, but there's one right on our fingertips here for Theory to lead, give him a real shot to lead two real talents as a tag team in Pretty Deadly. We can call them theoretically pretty or whatever the heck we want to call them, but let's make that a real faction. Let's tell that story. And I think the charisma from those two paired with Austin Theory can benefit him greatly. He can continue to be a heel, but it explains why he has to cheat to win with help from people that he's not even like partners with every week. He's got a new lackey every 3 months during this whole run. It was just a random one, but he's got somebody always. Let's actually have him in a faction that he's the leader of if we're going to do that. And that would be my complaint. I agree on the match being too short. I think it's a lame situation to put Sheamus in. Sheamus is way too talented, even with the amount of shenanigans, to be gone over by Austin Theory in that short a time. It just isn't right. And yeah, I guess I'm looking forward to the Brutes and Pretty Deadly. There's a positive.
There's a positive about it. Pretty theoretically deadly. I can see that coming now. You've called it, Clark, but it was one of those ones, wasn't it, where it could have been decent, but it just really, really wasn't. I know in the build-up to Mania, Clark, you complained about Austin Theory a lot. You said he's just another generic guy in generic trunks. And I'm going to be honest with you, at times I feel like he has gotten too much criticism. However, since he's moved to SmackDown, he's done absolutely nothing. I mean, he's not done anything here. I mean, Clark, do you have any idea about what they could just change to make him a little bit more interesting?
They have to give him some sort of edge, something. At least the phone gimmick that we all complained about, at least it was something. I don't see the personality. I'm not convinced. Like Cena kind of hit the nail on the head in his promo about him. Like, it's hard to believe outside of great look physically, can work great bell to bell, good move set. But where is I don't see if you put LA Knight's personality on Austin Theory and push him that way, we're talking about the next biggest superstar ever.
Yeah.
He's got to show some of the charisma that, Vince McMahon saw it clearly. We know that, right? A lot of people have seen it. Heyman has gone to bat for Austin Theory, right? A lot of people have gone to bat for Austin Theory over all these years. But he's got to figure something out on the mic. I don't know if it's a gimmick or a character or just a change in attitude. Maybe it's let Pretty Deadly talk on their behalf and have him be the leader that doesn't talk as much and let their charisma rub off on him in some way. I'm not sure because I just have not seen the promo work that convinces me yet. Not one time.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, the only concern that, I'd have about putting Theory and Pretty Deadly together is that the gimmicks aren't really similar. Like, the only reason that they're even with each other is, they're both cocky heels. Like, that's it.
The
And
selfie one would have fit. Can you imagine the three-person
true,
selfies?
but even then then it would just be blatant Tyler Breeze ripoff.
Sure.
Then it would go to, okay, you can still argue about the phone thing, but then it's just blatant.
Yeah.
And that would be the worry there. I mean, saying it now, bring Tyler Breeze back and put him with Pretty Deadly. I love to see that. But that's a whole other conversation for another day. And let's talk about legends. And let's talk about Edge, because Edge returned on last night's episode of SmackDown and was on the Grayson Waller effect. And Waller in the segment kept teasing that Edge was about to announce his retirement. And then Edge basically instead just announced, no, I'm just taking you on tonight in your SmackDown debut. Grayson Waller was shocked. And he said, I'll see you later in the show. Well, later in the show was 13 minutes later. That's how rushed this show really was. And yeah, they did Edge versus Waller. And it was, again, a very quick match. It was good for what it was, but it was just very quick. Edge eventually hit the spear and won the match. And then after the encounter, Edge grabbed the microphone and told Waller that he swam. Because earlier in the night, he said, let's see if you sink or swim. He swam. So he kind of was putting over Grayson Waller despite the fact he got the victory. And I thought that was a nice touch. Apart from coming out of this, right? Grayson Waller, yes, sure. I mean, great first match to have. But there's no direction for Edge. It's weird. SmackDown just really feels like at the minute they're only focusing on the Bloodline storyline in terms of their booking. There's no vision for anything else in the long term. But Shad, what did you think about the Grayson Waller effect with Edge and the match that followed it?
This is a great week for Grayson Waller.
Yeah.
You get to be in a segment in the ring doing very well on the mic by the way, with John Cena. And now you get another segment with Edge, and you get a match with Edge as your debut match on SmackDown. I thought the segment was cool. I like the back and forth within it. I'm a big Grayson Waller fan. I think everything that you guys spoke about, what you feel is missing in Austin Theory, I think that is Grayson Waller. I think Grayson Waller is a great in-ring wrestler. I think he has charisma. I think he's a very smarmy heel. I think he kind of is what WWE wants. And obviously, age is just the major difference is that he's just a bit older than Austin Theory.
Yeah, 8
but
years.
I think that he kind of does everything that they want Austin Theory to do in the character, and that's him. And I think he's like a better version of the Miz in a way too. Like, I think he's great, and I think he showed himself that he can hang in the ring with Edge. I love the fact that Edge, gave him the rub by throwing him the mic and saying you swam. Like, I think that in that setting in MSG with a person in his notoriety, I think that does a lot of help for Grayson Waller. So it shows WWE has a lot of faith in what he's going to be able to do on the main roster. Now, what you said earlier is the thing that kind of goes wrong with my head too, is now what are we going to do with that? We have these characters in place. What type of directions or feuds are we going to build for them? Like, now that we know great, because like I said a few weeks ago, all I know is Grayson Waller was doing these Grayson Waller effect segments with different superstars and stuff like that. Well, now I know he can wrestle. Let's get him in a feud with somebody. Let's build something for him. And I wouldn't mind seeing Edge, because I know they teased it and it's not technically like official, but if this is Edge's last run, I don't mind seeing him just going on a run where he's having banger feuds and matches with young superstars and helping them put over before he hangs it up. Because I feel like giving back at the end of the day before he calls it quits could do a lot of benefit for a lot of guys on that roster. If he can continue to help build up other young guys, before he heads out and helps WWE kind of get a new brand of superstars for the next wave, because I sure know that they need it, because not all these stars are going to be young forever.
Mm.
It'd be beneficial, but I'm curious to see what Edge's direction is going to be, because I mean he's a Hall of Famer. He's someone with high magnitude. What storyline are we going to do with SmackDown? SmackDown holds a lot of time for one particular storyline. You got a lot of other superstars that you can build storylines for. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with them.
I do agree with you there, and they need to start, thinking more long term. You touched on it there that Grayson Waller is he's got a very similar gimmick in a way to Austin Theory, apart from he just has more charisma. And it's a great point, Clark. You previously said as well that if you had Austin Theory but with the charisma of LA Knight, that would be a huge superstar. And it kind of brings up the thing here, right? Both those guys who you mentioned, I mean, LA Knight is not, I think he's 17 years older than Austin Theory, which is crazy, by the way. And then Grayson Waller's 8 years older. So, I mean, charisma isn't something that you can teach necessarily.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is age actually, a factor in this? Because, I mean, we look at other stars. People said the same thing about John Cena at one point. They said the same about Roman Reigns. And yes, Roman Reigns' gimmick kind of doesn't require so much, but he's improved. And he's improved, on the mic, and he's become more comfortable. Do you think maybe it is just more of a timing thing, Clark?
Well, I mean, you look at, I think the best example is Steve Austin. If you look at from the Hollywood Blondes to the Ringmaster, nobody had more generic trunks or a more boring gimmick than the Ringmaster. It is the worst. So is there history that suggests it's possible that Theory can find the it factor that's inside of him and unlock that and be more charismatic than he appears now? Of course. Is it likely? I don't know. It doesn't happen all the time.
I think his strong suits are not positioned to how he's booked, though, because he's an incredible seller. He's a great bell-to-bell wrestler, and he can make his opponents look good and have good bouts. I feel like the vision of him as a champion right now, I feel like it's a little far-fetched. I feel like if they did have him lose the belt and he kind of goes on a downward spiral and you kind of slowly let him fight himself back up to getting in that position, that'll be beneficial for him, because I just don't see him as that guy just yet, because he's far back character-wise to be a guy who is a main stage person. I think he's an incredible worker, but yeah.
The part that scares me to death about him is he bell to bell. There's no debate about his talent. It doesn't actually fit his character, like you said, right? Like, he's not a baby face. He doesn't come across as one ever, but he sells like one.
That's true.
He can sell like one. It's almost like his. I don't want to. Daniel Bryan and Bryan Danielson is a big comparison, but moveset wise, like you know what I mean. But Bryan Danielson always had the babyface personality. As far as like he's got wrestling acumen in the ring, but that's a story that there's no reason to tell, because you're trying to present him as this conceited heel. He's no MJF on the mic. He's no Grayson Waller on the mic. He's no LA Knight on the mic. So we got to hit the reset button and figure out a way. Maybe he goes though, you guys had me all wrong the whole time. And I was, I've always been the underdog. And then one guy said I was the chosen one. Maybe that's the story we have to tell.
Maybe.
And it's all this pressure on me, and that's not even who I am. I'm a good person, and I'm a fighter, and I want to be the guy. I want to represent the title with honor and things like that. Maybe that is the direction to salvage this.
Yeah.
And we don't even realize it. Yeah.
No, that honestly, that is a great shout, Clark. Something I haven't even really thought about. I will say he's been tried as a face twice in his career so far, failed both times, and people went nuts at it both times. Because the one thing which people have always said is he's got a very punchable face. And I've heard it for years and years. But I do agree with you there. Maybe in the future people will root for him if you book it well, but who knows? But now let's talk about somebody who they're trying to get over and they haven't, and that's Karrion Kross, right? He faced AJ Styles in the match. They've been, they're building up the rematch for a few weeks now, and the match literally lasted a couple of minutes before Styles got the win. They're trying to build Kross, but his win record's awful on the main roster. I don't understand what they're doing here. I don't see the direction for Kross at all. AJ Styles got the victory here, and I guess it's it for this victory.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of Scarlett and the phenomenal forearm, so that was good. But yeah, I don't even know why they did this. It's the newest chapter in the most telegraphed storyline in all of the WWE. There's no time, nothing going on, and you gave me all the ones to complain about, but Scarlett looked excellent out there, and I really like the phenomenal forearm, so that's what I'm going with.
Fair enough. I will agree with you on both of those things, Clark. But now let's move on to the women's division. And it was a 3-way situation. Now it might be a 5-way situation. And that is for the SmackDown Women's Championship, as Asuka came out before Bianca Belair ran out and took her down before she could say anything. Charlotte then ran down too. And Bianca and Charlotte started brawling. Io Sky then attempted to cash in, but Bianca Belair took out Bayley. And to be fair, Bayley did nothing wrong, but you can be certain Io Sky is going to be not too happy with Bayley about something. It felt extremely rushed, this entire segment. It really did. It didn't really advance the storyline that much. I mean, it's teasing the cash in, which is nice, but yeah, I think it's obvious. It's a triple threat they're heading towards at SummerSlam. But what about you, Shad? What do you think is the plans for the women's division?
Well, yeah, this segment went way too fast. There was so much that happened in a matter of a few minutes. I was just like, wow, there's so much happening. In regards to the direction, I think we are gonna lean towards a triple threat match. I think it's gonna probably be Bianca, Asuka, and Charlotte, which will be an amazing match. I know Bianca is fighting Asuka next week, so I can imagine there's going to be progression for this triple threat match to happen there. And I mean, I'm all for it, but I just don't like the fact that we have our champion, and I feel like the other counterparts have more like light and shine towards them rather than her. And it's like a feud between Bianca and Charlotte rather than a feud for Asuka's title, because they've been going back and forth. And in that manner, I don't even feel reason for them to be in this bout with that. So I'm hoping what happens is that we did see Io Sky try to make a cash in. That's the match I want. I mean, I'm hoping that maybe Asuka retains at SummerSlam, and then we get Io to cash in on her, and then we can get an Io and Asuka program, because I'm a big Bianca Belair fan, and I like Charlotte Flair a lot. I think she's arguably the greatest in-ring women's wrestler of all time. They can have a feud without a belt. They're both superstars. They don't need a belt to have a feud. Let's give Asuka, Io, even Bayley like an opportunity to like have feuds with the belts and whatnot, and use that belt to build prestige with them instead of just always having the same people in the same circle of it. So I didn't like the segment. I thought it was way too fast, but I love all the people in the segment. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with all of those points there. Unfortunately, I still do think Bayley's just going to cost Io when she cashes in or something ridiculous like that, because they went on so much this year about how 100% of the women's Money in the Bank winners have cashed in successfully. So I unfortunately feel, as much as I love Io, I am a bit worried that they are going to screw her over. But talking of people that they have screwed over, let's talk about Cameron Grimes. And Cameron Grimes finished up in NXT almost a year ago now, which is crazy. Almost a year ago now. They then took months. Everybody thought he was going to debut at the Rumble. He didn't. They took months and months to finally debut him. They waited until after the draft. They then started this feud with Baron Corbin, but then Baron Corbin just, left and went to NXT. And he's doing great stuff in NXT. I'm not, complaining about him going there. But they've done nothing with Cameron Grimes, and Cameron Grimes is somebody who he's in his very early 30s, right? Similar enough age to Grayson Waller. And just like Grayson Waller, I think he has a lot of potential. An easy 10, 15 years, left of his career. He's very much a WWE guy. I've always felt he's a guy just perfect for WWE. His in-ring style, his character work. He's had like 4 different gimmicks in NXT, and he made them all work. They just haven't given him a shot on the main roster. I don't understand at all why this is, and it's really frustrating me because I've been a big Cameron Grimes guy for years. I loved him as Trevor Lee, and I loved him ever since he appeared in
Good
NXT.
news, Ben. I know exactly where he is.
Where?
He's stacking money. Not every superstar on the WWE roster has 2 jobs like Cameron Grimes, and it's time to bring back that Cameron Grimes. Rich, stacking money Cameron Grimes. He's out doing whatever he's doing, whatever the scam is this time. He's going to stack the money, and we're going to get the richest guy in WWE out here. Once again, sooner rather than later. Hopefully Top Hat is back. Hopefully the beard grows a little longer. Let's get him back to handing out the cash, stacking it, and let's go to the moon. Because I think that's the only logical explanation is he had to go back and stack cash again.
Well, we all know that he made his money, off the stocks and all that during COVID. That was the entire gimmick.
Yeah.
But what happens if he decided to, dabble in crypto? And we know there's a lot of crypto scams going on right now. Allegedly, Logan Paul's is. That's the big, situation that's going on all over YouTube at the minute. Logan Paul's faced a lot of controversy for. There's a feud right there. Logan Paul versus Cameron Grimes because Cameron Grimes wants his money back for CryptoZoo.
Yes.
There we are. Book it. That's how to get him on TV.
Book it now. Yes. Sign me up. I'm in. No matter what. Or how about he launches a fake one that does better than CryptoZoo? and Logan is actually the underdog here because Cameron's more successful. I mean, we can tell that story on WWE TV too. Either or.
It's honestly, it's one of those things where it just... He is such a good star. He is.
So
He's just
talented.
got so much talent. He pulled off, a gimmick of getting money from investing in stocks during COVID. He pulled that off and got it super over. And then they repackaged him again. He got that fairly over. And even before that, he had a gimmick, which was, he's a caveman type thing. And even that was, decently over.
His feud with LA Knight on NXT was a good one.
Outstanding.
He's got charisma. Right? He's got that thing which one about Austin Theory lacks.
He's
amazing in the ring, and they just don't give him a chance. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because he's got a southern accent. I mean, historically WWE don't really like that.
I know Austin though had a southern accent, and he did pretty good in the WWE. That's always been the old thing. I'm just saying. I know, right? I agree.
He's always been the exception to the rule.
Gold Dust too.
The exception doesn't disprove the rule.
I agree. I'm just saying.
But yeah, I mean, I hope you are right. I hope, why don't they do a King of the Ring and have him win the King of the Ring and have King Cameron Grimes? He's made like 10 billion gimmicks work already. Let's chuck him another one and see what he does. But they have to do something because they're sitting on too many top talents right now, such as Cameron Grimes, who are in their prime. They're in their prime. You mentioned it earlier on the show, Shad, that they just haven't developed many top stars right now. They're all, they're all getting on a bit for the most part. Cameron Grimes is somebody perfect for that situation, and he's just not even on TV. It's not like he's been wasted on TV. He's not even on TV. So it's not like people are learning about him. It's pointless. I do not like it. But let's talk about something else which a lot of people didn't like. And let's talk about the fact that the Bloodline had a second segment on WWE SmackDown last night. Because Jey Uso returned from the hospital. Jimmy, I don't know what's happening with Jimmy. They didn't really give an update. But Jey came out and was not happy. And Roman Reigns learned that he'd arrived at the arena. So Roman Reigns came out. But Reigns didn't get an entrance. What? I mean, understandably so, to be honest, when they took up almost half an hour with their first segment. But still, Reigns is out. He had his entrance during commercial break. And Jey Uso then came out from the crowd, attacked Solo before grabbing a steel chair and going in the ring to attack Roman. Roman dropped the title, but then Solo managed to get the chair off Jay. Roman retreated, although Jay took out Solo, grabbed the WWE Unified Universal Championship and held it above his head. And this was actually, he was in the exact same position that he did in 2020, which is a lovely side-by-side photo. It's all over social media today. But yeah, it's clear as day now. It's going to be Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. Jay did, he basically gave out the challenge, didn't say SummerSlam, but it's obvious that's where it's going. This is a segment I did enjoy it. It worked for what it was. But the issue was, right, the first segment at the start of the night was a very good segment. But if they were going to do that segment, I think they should have done this segment next week and maybe made it slightly longer, because you had a 20-odd minute segment opening the show, right? I think it was actually 32 minutes. Then you had a 7-minute segment, this one, closing the show with the Bloodline. That 7 minutes could have been given to, Edge versus Grayson Waller in the main event, for example. Just something. It's one of the other matches on the card. Maybe you could have given 4 minutes to that and 3 minutes to the Oscar, Bianca, Belair, and Charlotte situation, which we complained about not getting enough time. You had a ton of options, and they just didn't use any of them. They just gave them another segment, the Bloodline, and I love the Bloodline, but this just did feel like a little bit too much for me. But Shard, what did you think? Do you think there was a bit too much Bloodline?
I think the timing was too much. I think having them in the premiere spot and premiere segments is always the right thing, because that's the money making storyline. You're in a marquee city. You're at MSG, but you have a 2-hour increment and you're spending 65, 70% of the show on one thing. Or maybe not that much, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you're spending a massive amount on top of like ads and stuff like that. It really showed the pacing of this show. Like, you saw a lot of segments just rushed and rushed and rushed, and it affected the entire show, because there was a lot of meat on the bone for these other stories to get progressed, and we couldn't get to it just because they fast forward through a lot of it. And I think that, it's like sports, like time management, clock management is always a key factor of how your game plan is in a game. If you're not doing the X's and O's and spending times on how you run plays and how you officiate stuff like that, your game plan gets messed up. And I think they had what I thought was a good to decent SmackDown. If they could have, maybe condensed a lot of the storyline with the Bloodline in the first segment, and I don't even know if you necessarily needed the second segment like that. Like you mentioned, you could have done it next week. It could have made the rest of the show been a lot more fluid, because we didn't even get a women's match in the show either, which
That's true.
is not, ain't a good thing. Like, you have a lot of marquee superstars on there. The segment itself, I mean, Jey Uso, his ending lines, I thought was incredible. I thought he had, it's coming back to that first match they had in the beginning of this entire like Bloodline story. I love that it's circling back, and I thought he did great. And like I said, I like everything about it, but it's just like you're putting so much time into it when you got a whole show. It makes it difficult. So yeah.
No, you made some very good points there, Clark. What do you think? Did you think that it all felt a little too long?
I want Jimmy. We've seen Jay twice. Why doesn't Jimmy get a chance? It seems unfair to me. I want Jimmy. We've already seen Jay lose in a regular match, and then an I Quit Hell in a Cell, which was a wild move. And we haven't seen Jimmy and Roman yet. I wish they'd have flipped the two and then shortened the main event segment like we talked about before. Shad made a great point there. Like, give time for wrestling, a women's match, a women's main event. We could have squeezed some things around here and made this work. But my real gripe is I want Jimmy to get a chance. It's not right. Only Jay. And it's so telling to me that when they released the WWE video game, and it's the same, and they update those rosters and those ratings, they made Jay a 90 and Jimmy an 89. Come on. They're twins. That's so telling. Even in the video game, why are they doing that? When's Jimmy gonna speak up and be like, bro, what about me?
No, I mean, in fairness, before this, everybody used to say Jimmy was the better one. So it's before this Bloodline storyline started.
He won
then
most
obviously
likely
Jimmy
to
got-
succeed in high school.
It's that injury that let Jay get that limelight though. I think they like that main event Jay Uso thing really I think shifted who the perception of WWE because of course Jimmy was always in the limelight. I mean he was on that show, him and Trinity's
Total
relationship was
Divs.
showing. Yeah, on Total Divas like he always did get the limelight initially. He had the feuds of stuff from the Mandy Rose feud
Yep.
with that. But it's like Jay really put in a lot of work during that pandemic. I really think WWE sees him as a guy who could eventually be a top guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Jimmy had
No,
a torn
I do.
ACL
And
from that ladder match. Poor guy. Like he's
no,
just
I know.
no chance.
And that was
Hey
because,
man, it's
they
like
had to leave it. But talking
like
about
Brady
people
and
who could
Bledsoe.
be,
Yeah.
top guys, let's talk about Solo Sikoa, right? Because we briefly mentioned it earlier on that they've, done these teasers. It's unlikely Jay's going to be the guy to take the title, right? And we'll talk about this more in detail in the next few weeks. But it feels like every time in this story that we know who we think's going to take the title, they don't take it. But do you think, Shad, that it could be Solo that does take the title off of Roman?
I don't think I think they're teasing it and I feel like there could be a way where it does, but I think Solo is dominant enough and they book him so dominant where he could be that. I just don't know because I feel like there still has to be like that title to me. He would have to be like because I haven't. Thing is this, they haven't let him really like. He doesn't talk on the mic. He's kind of like he's honestly Umaga Jr. Character wise. Like they let him kind of growl and just be a silent killer, just like how Umaga was. So maybe they'll try to book him in a manner like that. Who knows? Maybe what would be the craziest swerve? It's highly unlikely, but who knows? What if it is a Solo, and what if Paul Heyman aligns with Solo and becomes the talking piece for Solo, and he becomes champion? Because that would kind of be crazy. Because I think Heyman could be, of course, Heyman's the greatest talking piece that you can have, and that would honestly be a key way. I don't know because I still feel like they're gonna find a way to get Clark's favorite wrestler the belt down the road. They're gonna circle back to that. But if it is Solo, I feel like the best way to do it would be him beating Roman and then Paul Heyman aligning with him, like him and Paul kind of being like, you know what, we're all like that's the last straw. The Usos are gone now, and then he loses Paul and he loses Solo, and now Solo's the new tribal chief, the new head of the table, and Paul's gonna always go to whoever the tribal chief and the head of the table is.
Yeah, I'd love for that to happen. We got Melissa in the chat. Shout out to Melissa. But very quickly, Clark, do you think that it could be Solo?
My actual pick to eventually take the title isn't Solo, and it's not Cody, and it's not Jay, and it's not Jimmy either. It's Seth Rollins. Because I no longer believe I'm changing. I thought that they'd finish the story at WrestleMania 40. I do not believe that that will be the case anymore. Like you mentioned yesterday, Ben, we're in the third inning. And I think by the time we get to the ninth inning, there will be a Shield-related architect and tribal chief story to be told of epic proportions. And he's finally the one to do it. And it's Seth Rollins. And that would be my pick.
That would be exceptional. I mean, obviously, that'd be down the line, but this could go on for a long, long time, this title reign. Like Roman said, third inning so far. If they do go to the ninth, well, that'll mean like another 4 or 5 years. Like that would be crazy. Lengths of time. But wrap it up like that. And I mean, there's a case to be made, to be honest, that you keep this title on Roman until he does properly leave to Hollywood and then become a full part-timer. There is a case to be made that perhaps he does hold this for another few years before you do that big one. But talking about big ones, we have a big show for you guys tomorrow where we'll be giving our thoughts on AEW Collision. Clark will be hosting that, and it'll be a stacked episode. But that brings us to the end of today's episode, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a thumbs up and a comment down below. If you're on Spotify, please hit a cheeky 5 stars and share it around with your friends as well. We're here every day. We're back here tomorrow, 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Thank you to Clark and Shad.
Not am Hawaiian.
There you have. Thank you for joining me, guys. We will see you tomorrow. Enjoy.